Results were prepared by DNA Diagnostics and they read as follows. In the case of Bronson versus Roberts, and it comes to 29-year-old Jasmine Bronson, it has been determined by this court. Mr. Roberts, Ms. Bronson, you have always known the defendant to be your biological father, but have opened your case against him to prove paternity because he now claims he has reason to deny he is your father. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Roberts, you believed Miss Bronson was your firstborn until 3 years ago when your world was turned upside down with the news that you may not be her biological father, and Mr. Banks claims he is. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Miss Bronson, how do you feel knowing your father is denying paternity?
Your Honor, I feel Mr. Roberts is my father. He's the only father I've known for 29 years. That's my father, period. I know him my whole life. He the only one I call my father. That's who I grew up knowing as my father. So Mr. Roberts is my biological father. That's it.
And Mr. Roberts?
Yes, Your Honor.
What is your side of this?
Well, I always believed that Jasmine was my daughter. I raised her as my daughter as the other children in my life. She only knows me as a father. I never even knew anything about this gentleman here.
So 29 years?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
He's been through everything with you?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts, did you take financial responsibility for Miss Bronson? Did you provide for her in the form of support?
Yes, Your Honor. The times I was there, and I was also ordered to do child support.
Are you on her birth certificate?
No, Your Honor, I'm not on her birth certificate.
So, Miss Bronson, all your life, this is the man that you were told was your father, you believe was your father, and you had no reason to doubt it?
Yes, Your Honor, up until 2009.
What happened in 2009?
I had a phone conversation with my mother. Then she mentioned Mr. Banks. And she said, don't you remember the guy that I told you who thought he was your father? When she said that to me, Your Honor, it was a what moment. Like, what are you talking about? So she said that he wanted to get in contact with me. I gave her my number to give to him, or she gave me his number. I can't remember how we actually got in contact. And then we reached out to one another.
Did you know Mr. Banks?
No, Your Honor.
You know who he was?
No, Your Honor.
So all of a sudden, a man named Mr. Banks comes to the picture, and this man could be your father?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you say anything to Mr. Roberts? Because at the time, you believed he was your biological father.
No, Your Honor, I didn't say anything to Mr. Roberts. I kept it to myself for a while, and then I told Miss Blair.
Mr. Roberts, Miss Blair is your fiance.
Yeah. Yes.
What did you say to Miss Blair?
I just mentioned that my mother told me that someone else could be my father.
But you said it to Miss Blair and not to Mr. Roberts.
Right.
What made you make that choice?
Me and Miss Blair built a good relationship, so I felt that I can confide in her about that. She was the only person that I trusted to tell that at that time.
So, Mr. Roberts, take me to the day you found this out.
A few years ago, Miss Blair told me that she needed to talk to me about something, and that's when I found out. I was kept in the dark about all this. I never knew anything about Mr. Banks. I also, spent 8 months in jail for unpaid child support, and I'm $75,000 in arrears.
And then you didn't get a call. Your fiance comes to you and says,
the possibility that Jasmine is not my biological daughter. And that took me for a loop after all these years. I was like, I had paused for a minute. I was like, what? What are you telling me that she may not be my daughter? I was not expecting to hear that. It really shook me after all these years. My thing is, if the mother knew or Mr. Banks knew of somebody, why didn't somebody say something? I was the last to know about everything. And if other people knew, they should have said something. We could have dealt with this issue 20 years ago.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, sometimes it's crazy to me that people know, they know that this is happening, and they just let it go for years and years and years. And then you have an adult person like this young lady here who's like, I kind of have known for a while now, but now that who I thought my dad knows that he may not be my dad. Now we have to go to this TV show and have this whole dramatic thing. And I feel like it could have been so much easier. I don't know why people make it so much more complicated on themselves. Like, I get that things happen, but man, it's just, come on.
Mr. Banks, I want to ask you, when did you become aware that you potentially could be Miss Bronson's biological father?
I can recall when she was about 6 or 7, and I ran to her mother and Jasmine and her sister in the park. And then she had told me that Jasmine was my daughter then.
Oh, so Jasmine's mother said?
Yes.
Do you remember the words she used?
No, I don't. I just recall her saying that Jasmine was my daughter.
And Jasmine was there too?
Yes.
And when you looked at this child, did you say to yourself, wow, this could really be my child? Or did you believe her?
I believed it, and I said she probably can because resemblance of my family members at that age that she was.
Mr. Roberts, how old was Miss Bronson when you found out that you potentially could not be her
I
biological
do
father?
believe, Your Honor, she was 19.
That's not accurate, Your Honor.
What is your testimony, Miss Bronson?
When I first found out in 2009, I was 20 going on 21.
You had no idea about this?
No, my mother said the same story that Mr. Banks said, that I went to the park and I met him. But as a
So she had seen him when you were 7. Now you 21 years old.
Yes.
So that's 13 years from the day you all had this encounter. Do you remember the encounter in the park?
No, Your Honor, because as a little girl in the park with my sister, the last thing I'm thinking about is meeting some man.
Absolutely. And you don't remember there being some outward gesture, Mr. Banks. Am I correct?
Correct.
It was just, there's Jasmine and she over there playing, what kids do.
Right.
That could be your daughter. But then for 13 years, the secret persisted.
Well, I thought I was gonna see her again, but I had never seen the mother again, and never.
Did
seen
you
Jasmine.
exchange numbers? Did you
Yes,
say, hey,
yes.
let's keep in touch?
Yes, we did.
Did you ever call her?
Basically, she took my number, and like I said, I've never heard from her since, though.
Did you think about that day for years?
Yes, I always thought that she was my daughter after the mother told me, because I even took her upstairs to meet my mother.
Oh, wait, so on this day when you all met at the park, then you took Jasmine, Miss Bronson, upstairs to see your mother?
Yes, because she did it upstairs.
And you went upstairs and you said, Mom,
I just found out that Jasmine is my daughter.
and your mother said,
She said, well, she could be a possibility because she resembled my sister when she was young a little bit.
and you don't remember that either, Miss Bronson.
No, Your Honor, I don't remember that at all.
And so, Mr. Banks, did you know Mr. Roberts existed and that he had been paying child support
No,
and going to jail and fighting through all of this responsibility?
No, I didn't.
You were never told that there was another man.
Well, she did tell me that the man that she had married, they think that he was the father at the time.
So, Mr. Roberts, up until this point, you didn't even know Mr. Banks existed.
No,
You
Your
did
Honor,
nothing.
I knew nothing of Mr. Banks. I dated Miss Bronson. I even married her 2 months after Jasmine was born, and I went on my business as raising, as the start of my family. But possibility, if I known that earlier, it probably wouldn't have been the rest of my daughters, because if she would have told me that earlier that another man is the father, I would have discontinued that relationship. And I look at it like this, as being young, I would have been like, well, I dodged the bullet. But I did the best, and I took responsibility. But my whole issue is, somebody should have said something.
100% agree. Somebody should have said something. This guy is missing child support payments and going to jail for it. He's getting hassled by the law. And she knew, the mother knew, and was okay with it. And I'm like, at least, let your, if your daughter's gonna think that this is the father, at least let the father be out of jail so that the father could be there to help raise your kid. I just don't understand how she could do such a thing to this young family, this young daughter, and then this gentleman here. It's such a sad situation.
I'm the last one to know everything. And it just blows my mind. People could just keep that without letting people know. She has a right on her end to know who her bloodline comes from, whether it's on my side or Mr. Banks' side. She needed to know, and it shouldn't have took 29 years for this to happen.
When you hear Mr. Banks talk about this encounter in the park and taking Jasmine up to see his mother, this is all new to you.
No, I never heard of it. I did hear that. I think he picked up for Thanksgiving one time or something like that.
Is that true, Mr. Banks?
Yes.
And did you ever say, well, why is he picking her up for Thanksgiving?
Yeah, and then they told me that he may be the father, but I never met him. Nobody told
When
me he
was
was
this?
outside.
It was 2011.
Well, I don't know the dates because
What'd you
nobody
say?
told
It
me
was
nothing.
2011.
It was 2011.
Yeah, I don't know
Yes.
because nobody told me nothing. A lot of stuff was kept from me.
We'll get it. You piecing it together. You just piecing it together.
Yeah, best as I can.
Miss Bronson, so you met Mr. Banks. You went to his home for Thanksgiving in 2011. That's true?
Yes, Your Honor. I went to his mother's house.
You went to his mother's house.
Yes.
So after you did that, how long did it take for you to inform the man you believe was your biological father that I had this encounter with Mr. Banks?
I didn't tell Mr. Roberts that happened.
You didn't tell him at all?
No. At the time, I didn't feel comfortable to tell him. I don't want to be the one to come and tell somebody that you're not my father. That's not my job. So I didn't do it.
I'm sorry, but it is 100% your job to tell him. It's like, I don't understand why you wouldn't say something. You just let him go through all this hardship. I mean, to me, it's like, even if he is your father, you should still love and cherish this person and desire the well-being of them. I just don't get how that logic makes any sense.
told Miss Blair.
Yes, because she was the person I always confided in. To this day, she's the person I confide in.
And so instead of going to the man you believe is your father and trying to break this news, you knew that this was not my burden to carry.
It's not my burden, and I wouldn't want to tell him that anyway. How can I do it and tell their father you might not be my father? Can't do that.
And now you're hurting because you want to prove today that he is your biological father because that's the only father you've ever really known.
Only father I know. 29 years. That's my father.
And so when you told Miss Blair after that, what did you say in your mind was your next course of action? Do I just wait? Was she supposed to relay the information to Mr. Roberts? How do you get to the point where Mr. Roberts finally knows?
I didn't really think about that. I was still registering it myself. It's still a lot to deal with to this day. That's something that's on your mind every day. When somebody tell you that somebody else is your father, when you already don't know your identity, that jacks you up more. So I'm glad she told him because I couldn't do it.
Yes. I think it's very real when you say, when someone says something to you like this, you think about it every day. I don't think I've heard it ever stated that real and that true.
Mm-hmm. Every single day. You're sitting around with him laughing, joking and stuff, it will cross your mind.
Yeah, because we've been on vacations, birthdays, she came down Maryland, lived with us for 8 years. And now, she got her first apartment, which we live in the same complex. I live in Benefit, and she live around the corner. So we still in each other's lives. Her children, my grandkids, they're at my house right now. So we see each other every day. I take them to school, or her children take them to school to spend out my. We still involved in each other's life to this day. But we're here to find out if I'm her biological father or Mr. Banks. And I need to know as well because it's been a long time. And I still can't get over that. They kept this from me. Like somebody should have said something.
Mr. Banks, hearing this testimony, do you still feel that it's a very real possibility that Miss Bronson is your biological daughter?
Well, the only thing I can really go off is what the mother told me. And like I said, the resemblance, if I would have knew she was my daughter, I would have been a part of her life if I would have knew who she was at.
And Jasmine, honey, do you feel like Mr. Banks should have done more?
Yes, I do. If you see me at 7 and you felt that I looked like your family, you could have did something. It wasn't on me. My mother handled it how she handled it. That's on her. I ain't got nothing to do with that. But as a father, you should want to, if that's your child, be in your child's life. They could have did something. I wouldn't be standing here if that was done. I probably wouldn't feel the way I feel if that was done.
We help babies, 2 months old, 2 weeks old. We help babies before they're even born determine who their fathers are. But we can never forget that there are adult people in this world that live with it. I say a lot of times when we deal with our cases with babies, I say they have the benefit of never having to remember that this was an issue because we're able to get it solved before they ever know. And then there are young women, beautiful young women like yourself, and you still have to function with
every
this,
day.
Right?
Yes.
Every day. That's why we're here, is to get you these results, and I want to get them for you right now. Jerome? These results were prepared by DNA Diagnostics, and they read as follows. In the case of Bronson versus Roberts, and it comes to 29-year-old Jasmine Bronson, it has been determined by this court. Mr. Roberts, you are not the father.
She's still my daughter. I love you. You're always going to be my daughter.
Absolutely. The next result reads as follows. In the case of Bronson versus Roberts, it has been determined by this court. Mr. Banks, you are the father. Do you want to be a part of her life?
Yes, I do. Because I love you. And I always will love you, as I told you before. And if I can walk down these stairs to give you a hug, if I may.
Will you allow that?
That's fine.
I think there's one benefit in this. Both of these men believed you were their daughter, and both of these men wanted to get the truth, and both of these men want to be in your life from here on out. So look at all you have. And even though she's a grown woman now, you all have the responsibility to help heal that child in her. You do. Right?
Yes.
Because there's people that love her, You've got to stand by her as she begins to work through this, okay?
Yes.
You're such a beautiful young woman. I wish you the very best of luck. And I'm so happy we could get you the answers you needed today and give you all this closure.
Thank you.
All right? I wish you the very best of luck. Court is adjourned.
This case really just got me so upset. I look at this beautiful girl here who is just wanting to find out who her dad is. She was raised by somebody who apparently wasn't her father, but everyone said it was. And then she found out that it wasn't her father when she was a little bit older. And then everyone was like, well, you're going to have to do with that information what you want to. And no one stepped up to tell this poor guy that you're not the father, as he's struggling to pay child support, going to jail because of child support. I don't understand why people put other people through things like this. Guys, please let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. I was shocked by this. I thought that he was still going to end up being the father. I really did, because that would have been the most beautiful part to the story. But unfortunately, he wasn't. So let me know what you guys think.